because it's IP, I did not get a lot of freedom, and yet I got a lot of freedom. It's weird to say, because there were definitely things that were already set. Like season 1 of Arcane had already come out, and season 2 of Arcane had already been written, was already basically done. So I knew that these were my benchmarks for what kind of woman she was already. My job was just essentially to figure out what choices had she made in her past to get her there. And some of that was already provided for me in a very vague kind of outline. Like Riot knew that they wanted me, okay, you got to do these things, these, because we need to know this for, like it needs to be established for the world, for the canon. Then within that kind of framework, I just kind of got to say, okay, well, is she this way because of a past sacrifice she made? Is she this way because of a failure she had? Does she fight this hard for this because, she'd already lost something like that before? And those are the choices that I got to make. And those are the kinds of choices I love making in stories. Like I love writing characters who have lost something or deliberately given something up. Sacrifice is a big theme of Ambessa's in season 2. So I took that and tried to extrapolate a bit into how that would have become such an important part of her life.
What is up, everybody? You're listening to episode 143 of SFF Addicts. I'm your host, Adrian M. Gibson, and welcome to your weekly dive into the world of science fiction, fantasy, and writing craft. Joining me this week is my co-host, my bestie from the Midwestie, the queen of my days, Greta Kelly. How's it going, Greta?
Good. How are you doing? That makes me laugh every time.
I know. Like when I edit these episodes, like every single time I'm like, and there's Greta's laugh. Like, cue that shit up. It's great though. Well, if you want to support this lovely human being, you can buy her books. The newest one is The Queen of Days. You can go check that out. If you want a heist novel with a bunch of rapscallions doing just a bunch of rocket shit.
Just a bunch of stupid shit.
Killing God and stealing stuff. Yeah.
And of course, you guys have to go check out the award-winning now Mushroom Blues for all of your sci-fi noir adventures. It's so good, guys. It's got murder, it's got mystery, it's got mushrooms. Go do the thing.
All the M's. And for all the H's, go to MJ's duology, The Tales of Tomorrow with Among Thieves and Thick Ass Thieves. If you want the heists, hatchets, and horrors trio that I always pitch, minus the horrors, but you can enjoy a lot of action and heists and fun stuff.
There's horror, maybe a little.
Horror? Nah, it's not enough to deem that. But as well, a quick note for listeners, you can support SFF Addicts on Patreon for a ton of extras like bonus episodes, author readings, and more. So check the links in the description to help us do what we do here. Also, don't forget to rate and review the podcast on your favorite podcast app and subscribe to the FanFiAddict YouTube channel where this and every other episode of the show is available in full video. And now, welcoming back to SFF Addicts, the amazing C.L. Clark, author of The Unbroken, The Faithless, and the newly released, when this episode comes out, the Arcane tie-in, Ambessa, Chosen of the Wolf. How are you today, Cherae?
Hello. Hi. I'm great, actually. Really excited to be back. Thank you guys for having me again. I just have to say that I definitely thought you said thick ass thieves.
I did.
He does, yes.
Okay. Well, in that case...
you heard correctly.
I heard that makes it even better. But now all I can think of is just all of them with like BBLs, just like...
It's just big booties.
That's not why we're here.
Yeah. We're not here to talk about booties. We're here to talk about Ambessa, who's more muscle than... She's got a bit of a booty. She's got a bit of a booty.
I mean...
She's tight. She keeps it tight.
Well, for anyone who doesn't know you, if this is anyone's first introduction to you, can you give listeners a little bit more of a sense of you and your work?
Yeah, my name is C.L. Clark. You can call me Cherae as well. I am the author of The Unbroken, the Faithless, part of the Magic of the Lost series, and now Ambessa. And I think that my reputation is mostly built on um, women who like to fight shit and muscles. I think women with muscles who like to fight
Yeah.
shit.
Swinging swords around.
Yep. Yep.
But
That's
it's
a
a
good
good combo.
reputation to
Yeah.
have. Yeah.
Before we dig deeper into the episode, a quick word from our sponsor. Welcome to Transference, where death and sickness are but a distant memory. Nicholas Five Boroughs is a sicko, someone that takes on others' illnesses. In a city where diseases can be transferred, the rich buy longer lives without pain, and the poor get a short life of constant sickness. Brought back from the brink of death by his friend Brian Meadowhearth, or maybe the invisible hand of an outside actor, Nick finally gets the chance to try and change things, to finally stop the whole disease transfer network. Tensions escalate as Nick infiltrates a higher society he doesn't understand, and starts to fall for Dorothy Sungate, the very person he needs to manipulate to be successful. And between run-ins with a talking cat, genetically modified humans, and a robotic police force, the world around him just keeps getting stranger. Can Nicholas tear down the disease transfer architecture? And how much of his humanity is he willing to bargain along the way? A dystopian vision of healthcare and a market economy, Transference will appeal to fans of Red Rising, Blade Runner, and the BioShock franchise. Soon to be a complete duology with the release of Transcendence in the summer of 2025. Transference by Ian Patterson is available now in paperback and ebook. Get your copy today. And now, enjoy the rest of this episode of SFF Addicts.
Well, we got to talk about your nerdy origins here. Were there any books or TV shows or movies that really sparked your love for genre fiction?
Absolutely. Actually, by the time this airs, it will probably be Wheel of Time season. And that is probably the first of the epic fantasies that I really, really sank into. I think also the Drizzt Do'Urden of the R.A. Salvatore stories were also important. But Wheel of Time is where I was like, oh, this is where I live now. Like, it's all fantasy all the time. And so then obviously getting a TV show has been my dream. I even have like tattoos that kind of give a little bit of an homage to the Swan in the TV show, because Swan was my favorite character when I was reading the books when I was growing up. So I even thought I was going to change my name to Swan. I haven't, but definitely when I was 16,
There's
I
still
was
time.
certain that I would. I mean, there's still time.
There's still time. And that is a really, really good choice for changing your name. Have you, so like, what are your feelings about the TV adaptation? Because I know it's been kind of mixed. And how are you feeling about like season 3?
So my feelings about the adaptation, I am not very picky about full accuracy or anything like that. I'm mostly just happy to be here, which is to say I'm happy the show exists. And if it gets more people into the books, if it gets more people into fantasy TV shows, if it gets people paying for more fantasy TV shows, then I'm all about it. I think there might be some disappointment for people who go from the TV show to the books, because there are definitely some liberties that the TV show is taking to, make some subtextual things textual, like Moraine and Swan, who are my favorite wives, fish wives. But at the same time, I think that the nugget of the story, the group of friends who are all getting like blasted to different parts of the world and having to grow up in different ways, and Oh, the suffering, like all of that is still very much the same. And yeah, I also just really like big chunky books that go on for 10, 15, 100. I don't know how many. Um,
If only publishing wanted more series like that.
I
Yeah.
know, I know. I'm like, I keep toying with the idea of just going on like asking, so is it time yet? How many, like, how much do you have? How much do you trust me? How much do I trust me?
Be like, come on, like 10 books. Just give me at least 10.
You know
I
you want
know, I
to.
know.
I'll change my name to Swan if you let me do this.
Yeah.
Oh my god. And so Wheel of Time, like obviously big influence on you, and I can see that in your writing as well. But how did that whole writing journey start? Like, how did you go from reading Wheel of Time and other books and just being like, fuck yeah, I want to do this?
Well, first, I wrote a very bad 13-year-old's version of a ripoff of The Wheel of Time.
Swan is the main character.
No, it started with 3 boys, weird, one of whose name was Zachrim. Also weird. I don't know where I would have gotten that idea from. Definitely not from Matrim. And eventually that petered out, didn't really go very far. Probably because I was 13 and had a similarly sized attention span. But I kept writing, kept wanting to write. And luckily I had some really great teachers who encouraged me during the process of figuring out what I was doing with my life. And I ended up going to college, and completely unrelated to my coursework, even though it was writing, I was doing other stuff. But I really just wanted to do National Novel Writing Month. And so I finished my first novel during that. It was shit, but maybe one day I'll find some nugget out of it. And then, yeah, I did it again one year, and I just kind of, man, it's weird to think back actually now, because I feel like I've come so far, and it's like a different life. But I think I was taking a few different classes that got me thinking about how I read fantasy, how fantasy, like what areas it explores in. And some of the classes were literary theory courses about like post-colonial literature. And I was doing independent study about violent women in fantasy. And all of this stuff just kind of came together. I was doing French Francophone literature courses, which got me even deeper into the colonial, post-colonial literary area. And I just kept thinking about fantasy because that was my main area of interest, and seeing how we could talk about fantasy in that kind of lens. And had the idea for The Unbroken, told my teacher. She said, all right, cool, go for it. And I've been working on it ever since then. And then went to grad school, kept working on it, and then eventually it came out.
I mean, kudos to your
awesome.
teacher. Like,
Yeah.
I love when someone's actually there to say like, okay, go for it. You know, it's like, oh shit, like I can actually do this. Like,
Wait, this is the thing.
even though you didn't necessarily need permission, someone giving you,
but it helps. It helps. It helps.
Yeah.
Especially early on, you know, getting that nod that like, yeah, you could do this. I see it. So what about teaching for yourself? Because at certain points, did you also do editing as well as teaching? Is that something that you had pursued?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Well, because I always loved teaching. When I was a personal trainer, I really loved the aspect of coaching people and like teaching people how to do stuff. And I think as a teacher of any sort, you know, you build strong bonds with people, and I really just valued those kinds of relationships. And also when I was younger, well, actually, when I was younger, I was the nerd who always wanted to do more what we called daily oral language, which is basically just grammar class, the grammar part of class in elementary school. And in my classes, we just called it dull. But lo and behold, when you call something dull and then 6-year-olds learn the word dull, that's all they called it. But I was just like, oh, but I think it's not dull. I like it a lot. Uh, and so then we fast forward a bit more, and so I was one of those kids who was always in the forums, like critiquing like my friends' stories and stuff like that. And I think I like to think I got good at it. Um, it's something that I really, really, really enjoyed doing, along with the idea of like grammar stuff. It was also just I really liked sentences, and I had a good eye for when things weren't working, or like the good instinct for how to make stories work. And I mean, as I think all of us find out sometimes, it's much easier to wield that power on someone else's work than it is on your own. But yeah, so I did that for a while, and eventually I got into doing it for sci-fi and fantasy magazines. So I did that at Podcastle for a couple years, and that was really great, and I learned a lot. And sometimes did bigger freelance projects, and yeah, I learned a lot about writing. I learned a lot about reading about other people's work, and I still do, because I went to grad school for creative writing. I did teach there. That was part of my part of how I paid for school, but also we took like direct pedagogy classes, um, and I really do like that kind of midwifing young artists into the world idea. I really like it a lot, and what I wanted to do ultimately was, teach high school kids, not like in high school necessarily, but that age group in various kind of extracurricular programs and stuff like that. And would do that on summers, and that was always it was always a blast. Uh, but yeah, yeah.
Because it's like the kids who actually do a summer course like that, they're like, I want to be here.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
they're
they
interested.
want to
Like
be
they're
there, and
dedicated.
it was nerd camp as well. So it was like all these kids who had elected to be there were chosen to be there, and so they were into it, and that was exactly the kind of captive audience that I wanted.
Exactly. Because I have a friend who's a high school teacher and she teaches creative writing,
Hmm.
and she's like, good, like 90% don't give a shit.
Hmm.
And then there's like 5% who are good at it, but not necessarily
Mhm.
like, I want to do this. And then there's 5 who are like fucking hardcore, like,
Yeah.
give me everything you got,
Yeah.
But it's
Yep.
hard. Like if you're doing something like you're doing during the summer, I think that's a much more enjoyable process, because the people who are there, the kids who are there
Hmm.
actually want to be there. They want to learn this stuff. And so they
Hmm.
give it more of their attention and more effort. Whereas
Yeah.
like you can never guarantee as a teacher like who's gonna want to actually do this thing, especially
Yeah.
Hmm.
in like the regular sort of educational system, like high
Hmm.
school and middle school and
For
all
sure.
that.
For
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah, it's a hot mess. But you mentioned earlier about the Magic of the Law series and sort of like the French literature that you're reading, and sort of getting into like colonial and post-colonial literature and history. So when it comes to that series, I look at like big themes like that, not just colonialism, but you have like war, rebellion, and so much more. How do you balance that with the more intimate side of things? Because that's a big part of your work as well, in terms of the relationships, identity, queerness, and those kinds of things. So how do you find that balance between like grand scale things and much more smaller scale, intimate stuff?
Honestly, I think part of it is just that you can't really have personal relationships without the political being a part of that. You can ignore it for some time, or you can make your best efforts to isolate yourself from it. But even that choice is a political choice. Um, and in this case, I have definitely clearly chosen characters who are right in the middle of it. So there's no avoiding it for them. But all of their personal choices impact the political choices. And sometimes they may choose to, ignore a personal tie in favor of a political desire. But that's part of where the tension comes, is I want these two things, and I can have one of them, but in doing so, I will absolutely ruin the other. I think that, yeah, I think that's they're very much wedded together in terms of how I create tension, how I explore a character, just what they're interested in. And I mean, it's definitely has been some of the most fun part of writing it is putting these conflicting desires together. Um, but also, I think that some stuff is just part of a character and it influences all of their decisions. Like the queerness factor, I think is just like that for me is just part of the character. It's not something that I think of deliberately, at least not in this series. Because the world is pretty queer norm, they might have to think about it vaguely if someone's like, oh shit, I need an heir, but I'm gay. Let's just borrow my nephew. And now he's my heir. Fine. Yeah, but otherwise that it doesn't come in quite so heavily. But I would like to actually write a world that is not queer norm, and so then it will also be a much more political question. I have that story in my head, don't worry.
Are those themes and experiences something that you feel like you draw on your own personal life and experiences and perspectives to imbue in your stories?
I mean, to a certain degree, I mean, I am Black and I am queer, but so certainly those like moving through the world as a Black queer person is definitely influences how I write about colonialism and um, diasporic feelings and stuff like that. Um, but also, I'm also American in a world where an American passport, well, we'll see how things go. But heretofore, it has had a very strong power to move through the world, like immense privilege to go places visa-less and stuff like that. So there's, even though I am a minority, there's also an inherent kind of privilege based off of where I come from. And so that kind of duality is also something I really have spent some time exploring. And I mean, you know, as far as what my perspectives go, how what they are and stuff, I think part of the answer is that I don't quite know. I mean, I know what I'm thinking, but part of the exploration is to figure out more about what I'm thinking and how I'm feeling about it, and also just to see where my blind spots are as far as these privileges go that I enjoy or don't enjoy, like whatever I don't have, and thinking about weighing those kinds of things.
Yeah, I totally.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like
beautiful.
I
We're all
have, I
works in
have,
progress.
yeah, like just like Americans, like Canadians have a very powerful passport, and now like my wife, she's Ecuadorian, so it's like she has to get a visa for everywhere. Like I think the only countries that an Ecuadorian passport doesn't need a visa is like Russia, Iran, and China. So,
Oh.
but like everything else, she has to go through a visa process. But me and my
Mhm.
sons, we all have our Canadian passports. So it's like that was a
Mhm.
very stark contrast that I experienced. To be like, holy shit,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
how difficult it is for so many people from other countries to not have the national identity that allows you to traverse the world in a much easier fashion
Mhm.
is pretty crazy. So when it comes to book 3, so you mentioned The Sovereign is out in September.
Yes.
How will it broaden the scope of the story while also bringing this trilogy to a close? Because that's like a big task is to write a book 3.
Stick the
Yep.
landing.
Okay, so look, like I I mean, that's gonna ultimately be up to the readers. But I think I stuck the landing. I think I stuck the landing. I'm pretty excited about it. Um I'm just gonna I'm gonna own it. I really like the book, and I've read it like a million times, and I still am enjoying myself. So that's gotta count for something. And I had a friend read it, and he said it was really good. So I'm gonna take his word for it. Um, as far as So broadening the scope, we've got, for those of you who have read book 2, you know that we left with four major players. We've got Cherae and Luca, obviously, but we've got a couple new pieces on the chessboard. And in book 3, we get a 5th major player. And all of the magic systems come into play a bit more heavily. Also, I call book 1, which is mostly about like terrain and the jackal and Cantic. I call that one mommy issues. Book 2 with Luca and her uncle and her legacy, her father's legacy, and her father's lover, her bodyguard, and kind of surrogate father. That's the daddy issues book. And the Sovereign is the ex-girlfriend's book. So that's my pitch. That's what you should go into.
I'm sold.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, it's good. And also, like from each book to the next, is like magic just gets kicked up a notch every time, which makes me excited that like book 3 is gonna deal a lot more heavily with magic, but also ex-girlfriend issues, which is great. Everyone's got problems. Everyone's got relationships.
Everybody's got problems. I'm so excited for everybody's problems.
Well, I'm very excited about book 3.
Well, let's get into Arcane, which of course is your new tie-in novel, Ambessa, Chosen of the Wolf. What is your personal relationship with League of Legends and Arcane, and how did you become involved with this cool project? That's such a cool cover.
So it was, full disclosure, I'm not always sure exactly how much I'm allowed to say. And I do have to run a lot of questions and stuff by Riot. So as I go through the process, I might be a little bit more circumspect about certain things. But they have already a relationship with my publisher, Orbit. Orbit has already published Ruination, which is another League of Legends tie-in, not related to the Arcane TV show, but it was a solid book for somebody who didn't know a whole lot about the world, like I did when I went in. And yeah, I think they were talking to somebody at some conference, as book people do, and they were asking if Orbit had anybody in-house who they thought would be a good fit, and my name got bandied around. I think N.K. Jemison's might also have been, but maybe they could not afford her. And here I was. But yeah, so one of the Orbit editors asked me if I would be interested in working on an Arcane novel, and I was like, I love Arcane, tell me more. And then when they told me who it was, I was sold, because it's the moment she walked on screen in season 1, I was like, this is the love of my life. Hello. Hi. I've never seen a character like her on screen. I've never seen a character who moved like her. I've never seen someone who is so willfully violent, who is so ruthless. And it kind of took me all the way back to that independent study where I was looking for and not finding women who were violent just for the sake of it, because my research had more or less turned up that women were only expected to or permitted to be violent in defense of their own bodies or like their lives of their children. And even then it was kind of like oh no, don't, like not like a full
I'm just fighting to get away.
Yeah, it was not like a full-throated I'm gonna own it kind of aggression, and there were a couple examples where that wasn't the case, like Xena, but other than that, it was very just kind of a defensive only kind of position. And then Ambessa walks on, and she is full offense and also offensive to many people. and I just loved that abrasiveness. She was just such an amazing, interesting character from the very, very beginning. And then I got
Yeah,
to
I
write her.
mean,
So
and then you got the writer, yeah. No, but I totally agree, and it's like that character fits so perfectly when I saw that you were, because you like gave me a little tease when we saw each other in August, and you're like, I got something like coming, but I can't talk about it. And then when I found out that you were writing this Arcane novel, I'm like, fuck, perfect, like such. Mm. Like don't sell yourself short, like not like budget NK Jemisin, like you own your shit,
Yeah.
you got this. But I think this character fits
Thank you.
so well for you. And it's really cool, like as someone who's already watched Arcane, like I don't know if you played any League of Legends or if you had like any experience with that universe beyond Arcane.
Not before, not before. So when I first came in, I had just been a Arcane watcher. So, yeah, but then I had to learn so much more. I had to learn so much more, like down to like the mechanics of the game, so I could understand how characters' moves would work. Because they also wanted to make sure that like trademark moves get used in the book as well. So yeah, it was a very extensive education.
I can imagine, yeah, because we've talked to some authors about writing for IP, and it's such
Mhm.
an interesting process in the sense of like, you know, we talked to Peter F. Hamilton back in
Oh.
November, and he actually like got to do a lot of the foundational world building for this universe called Exodus, which is going to become a video game. Like it's a video game in development.
Mhm.
But in your case, like, man, like League of Legends and Arcane are so monumental at this point.
Yeah,
So how was
yeah.
it writing for this IP, such a big property, but also kind of like familiarizing yourself with the world, which I think is called Runeterra,
Runeterra, yeah.
and then like the geography and the factions, but even like you said, going down to like what are their like special
With
moves?
the
Like how does the
mechanics, yeah.
mechanics
Yeah,
of this? Yeah.
yeah. It was actually a really awesome exercise in collaboration. I've never written anything like this. Like I've never done TV, so I've never been in a writer's room. Um, but in some ways, this was stressful because there were a lot more spinning plates, and so I'm trying to keep my plate spinning, and somebody else is trying to keep their plate spinning, like say Arcane season 2, and I have to keep looking over at their plate to make sure my plate is right, and then I'm also over here looking at this other plate, which is, for example, the Ambessa music video, and so I have to look at that plate because that plate is directly touching my plate or something like that. So it was a lot of touching things that we had to make sure stayed in alignment with each other. But also, like, I got to be a part of kind of some of the inventions in the music video, for example, like because that music video went straight to the prologue of Ambessa, the book, and I was doing, like, I had consulting calls with the actual like animators for her little game self, and sent sketches of, we think her move's going to be like this, but maybe it'll be more like this, so how can you do this, and how could you write about this, and then consulting with like um some of the other artists who do like the setting work, and trying to figure out what we think buildings should look like, and in different locations, and that kind of stuff. They even let me invent an animal, which was awesome. Um,
Which one did you get
What?
to invent?
it was the little speed racer horse thing with bony plates and
Oh,
stuff.
nice.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
nice.
I
So
was
I got
really
some
excited
super
about.
fast horses up in here.
Yeah, yeah. That was part practicality because I needed to just get them somewhere really fast. But also I was like, if I could just invent an animal, it would either be like a lion-ish thing, or it would be a really scary horse. And then necessity required a faster horse, as well as a character who already did horse breeding type things. So I was like, okay, this makes the most sense, I guess. But if I have another chance to make another character or another animal, I think it's going to be like a cool, weird lion thing. Because, yeah. But yeah, so
I
it
think,
was
I
just, it
think
was really cool. Yeah.
I think it's hilarious the way that, like, yeah, for non-writers out there, we just sometimes have to come up with shit for necessity's sake. Like, get them from, like, point A to B.
Yeah.
How could I do that?
Logistics,
So,
man.
like,
Yeah, yeah,
goddamn
yeah.
logistics. Yeah.
Yeah, and
But I love that though.
they don't have the Piltover blimp because it's set
Right.
it's set I forget exactly how many off the top of my head, but it's set well before the events of I think like 20ish years maybe of Arcane before Arcane. I forget how old Mel is in between the breaks, but doesn't matter. What matters is they didn't have speedy blimps or hex tech to travel them across. So I needed a real fast horse.
Scary fast
Scary
horses.
horses.
Yeah. But also, what were you able to? Because you were writing this book before Arcane season 2 came out. So were you able to see some ahead of time just to be able to kind of like contextualize everything and because Ambessa features a lot more heavily in season 2.
She does indeed.
And Mel as well. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I did watch season 2 early. And it wasn't all finished, but quite a lot of it was. But it was also just really cool to see that process come together. Excuse me, not even as a writer, but as an Arcane fan, to just kind of get a peek behind that curtain and seeing like scenes that were still in storyboard mode. Because I mean, I am a fan of art, and to just see other artists working in progress, that is an insane privilege, but also it's just like really fun to just know this is what it looked like, and now this is what it looks like. That was pretty amazing. Had to keep those secrets
That's
in
so
for a
badass.
long time though.
I can imagine.
It
Because
was
season
hard.
two,
Yeah.
season 2 was like it was exceptionally more ambitious in terms of the art direction and the way that they were like mixing animation styles and all this different kind of stuff. Like season 1 was experimented with that, but like season 2 just went way beyond.
All the way in.
Like,
All the way in.
oh, I'm so jealous that you got to get like a peek behind the curtain and see that stuff as it was developing and as it was being created is so cool.
Yeah.
Well, before we dig too much deeper into Ambessa's characterization, can you like give a little pitch of the book? And you mentioned a little bit about how it fits in the universe, but maybe can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, so Ambessa, Chosen of the Wolf, is essentially a prequel that is set, as I said, I don't remember exactly how many years before the events of Arcane. I should as the author, but roll with it.
A decent amount of time.
A decent amount of time. Mel starts out, for your benchmark, she starts out as a not even born infant in the prologue, and then she's about 16, 17-ish for the events of the book. So that will be your benchmark. So it's a prequel to the Arcane TV series, in which we see how Ambessa becomes the matriarch of the Medarda family. Essentially, it is a struggle for power after her grandfather, who is the current head of the family, passes away. And so it's a power struggle between her and other family members who she may have some bad blood with because of nothing, absolutely nothing she has ever done.
No reasons. No.
But no, it
She's
is
a cinnamon roll.
She's yeah, I don't even know if I can even say that with a straight face. Yeah, so it follows Ambessa as she decides what she's willing to do to protect her family, her daughter, her son, and how she weighs their lives and safety in favor of power. Like I said, those two, it's love and it's politics. Like it's love and it's power. Which is the one that you're going to choose, and what happens if you choose one instead of the other? Essentially, that is this book. That's the question she's asking herself. That's the question she's asking her children as she tries to prepare them to come after her, to be her heirs. If you are going to read this book and you have not yet watched the 2 Arcane seasons, I would say watch season 1 first. Meet her. Get her coming out of a sexy bathtub. And then read the book. And then watch season 2. I think it will help make a lot of things in season 2 make sense that will be harder if you don't have a background in the game or the world already.
Yeah.
It will also just make certain scenes hit that much harder. So
Yeah.
that's the order I
And
recommend
also,
for you.
there is another bathtub scene in Ambessa. So
Oh yeah,
don't
yeah.
you
I
worry.
couldn't not put in another. Like,
I know.
given the choice,
Iconic.
given the choice.
It was like The Witcher. How in Witcher 3 there was like a bathtub scene with Geralt and oh crap, what is the name of his lover?
Yaskier.
Um,
Oh no,
no,
Yennefer. Yennefer.
No,
Yennefer,
yeah.
Yennefer. Yep. So they were in a bathtub scene, and then in the TV show, I was like, "Good on you for doing the bathtub scene. That's a nice little nod."
Anytime I could get her in a bathtub, I put her in a bathtub. Also, Wheel of Time, bathtub scenes.
Bathtub
saying.
scenes.
Mm.
Yep, they're good. So
Everybody give
bathtub
your
scenes.
characters good hygiene. Come on.
yeah, yeah, but also let their sore muscles rest.
Yeah.
Come on,
yeah.
it's all about
Come on
recuperation,
now.
both mentally and physically. Well, Ambessa's perfect for your wheelhouse, you know, like supremely
Mhm.
badass female warriors. But how did you kind of, when you were given the project and started the initial steps, how did you approach writing her character and deciding like how you want to flesh it out?
Mhm. So, because it's IP, I did not get a lot of freedom, and yet I got a lot of freedom. It's weird to say, because there were definitely things that were already set. Like season 1 of Arcane had already come out, and season 2 of Arcane had already been written, was already basically done. So I knew that these were my benchmarks for what kind of woman she was already. My job was just essentially to figure out what choices had she made in her past to get her there. And some of that was already provided for me in a very vague kind of outline. Like Riot knew that they wanted me, okay, you got to do these things, these, because we need to know this for, like it needs to be established for the world, for the canon. Then within that kind of framework, I just kind of got to say, okay, well, is she this way because of a past sacrifice she made? Is she this way because of a failure she had? Does she fight this hard for this because, she'd already lost something like that before? And those are the choices that I got to make. And those are the kinds of choices I love making in stories. Like I love writing characters who have lost something or deliberately given something up. Sacrifice is a big theme of Ambessa's in season 2. So I took that and tried to extrapolate a bit into how that would have become such an important part of her life that would carry all these years later into that, as well as exploring a bit more about her relationship with Mel. That was really exciting for me, but also because we already had the parallel in season 2 with Ambessa and Mel and Ambessa and Caitlin, I got to then explore where that might have started and what other attempts she might have made in trying to find this protege. Like I feel like she's always been trying to find a protege who she could mold into her own image. And when she didn't get that with Mel, which we saw in season 1's kind of flashback scene, when she didn't get that with Mel, that's also a chapter in the book. She then has to figure out how she's going to adjust her own expectations and see if she's going to find that in Mel or find it in somebody else. And so getting to replicate those patterns that we see later, earlier, kind of retconning them almost, that was really exciting to me. As well as just, there are some other patterns that I think I didn't intend them to be patterns, but they just sort of fit her character, and you can see them echoed in season 2. And I think like my editor, when they got the draft, they're like, oh, huh. Yeah, no, this matches perfectly for when she does blah, 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 blah in season 2. And I was like, yeah, I'm a genius. I did that totally on purpose. Absolutely on purpose. But yeah, so it was an interesting process, making her who she was. But with a character so well established, sometimes it's really just making them even more of what they've already been shown to be. And that was really fun. Also, like, I feel like a lot of authors fall into this trap of spending way too much time on a character's backstory. But this time it was just my job. Like, my job
Right.
is backstory. And that was so much fun.
Like, yes.
Yeah. But I think the pattern thing is really interesting because it's not necessarily like you're devaluing any of the things that she does in season 1 or 2 of Arcane. It's kind of like you're reaffirming her her sort of approaches to life and relationships and the ways in which, like, I love that the sort of, she's like a failed mentor kind of vibe where it's like, girl, you gotta figure this shit out eventually. But like that kind of thing where you're showing, like, here's this person who has this series of patterns that they continue to continue to show throughout their life, but showing the earlier stages where it's like it's much more disastrous than
yeah. And I mean, like,
than
it
it is
shows that
later on.
she is trying, and she's
Right.
like, oh, okay, well,
Yeah.
I did not succeed this time. Let me try it slightly differently.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I love that you're just like so excited about all this, because I can hear you're just like, yeah, it's just like it's just all so smooth and seamless, you know. The just like a little shoulder brush here. But are there some other aspects of Ambessa's life that I would say, like her personal life, because that's something you've done in this book, is really given her a lot more heart and complexity than is shown just in the 2 seasons of Arcane. But are there some other aspects of her personal life that you enjoyed kind of like digging deeper into, you know, her marriage, her family, her relationships? She's also got some like awesome warriors in her retinue dealing with like succession level shit within her family.
I think I actually, like, I did enjoy that a lot. I think, though, kind of to go back to your point about her being a bit more like not showing as much heart in the show, I feel like there are moments where she shows an enormous amount of heart, and I loved those so much that I couldn't wait to tease them out bigger in the book, because, you know, for various reasons, like, we didn't have enough time to explore in like the small compressed format of the TV episodes, but and so, like, so much is said in the kind of the white space of things, but getting to really blow up all the things, for example, that she has lost in such a way that makes her think, as she says in season 2 to Caitlin, the 4th pillar is sacrifice. Like, to then spend an entire book building up all of these relationships. When she gets to season 1, she has nobody. That's why she's come to Mel. So you know that everybody you meet in this book is gone in some way or another, whether she's alienated them, whether they've died, whether she's killed them, like something has happened to them. She's made the choice. And so I did enjoy filling out some of the relationships. I can't speak about all of them.
No, you gotta
for
pick up the book and read to
spoileristic
find out.
reasons. But there are, like, I mean, going back to the pattern idea, like, I really like her, all, like, she knows she has failed somehow in her mentorship, aka mothering, of Mel, at least in the way that she expects Mel to turn out. And
Not just Mel, but
so
also her brother Kino.
yeah. And then to then explore her kind of second attempt in the book there was something really gratifying about trying to have a character fix a perceived mistake anyway, on the page, while that quote unquote mistake is living her own life and essentially kind of proving that she was not a mistake at all. And having those work in parallel, it was really exciting. It was just really fun character work to write, to be honest. And when you read the book, you will know exactly who I'm talking about. but that was probably my most exciting relationship to work on. But I really love any of those really close to bitter enemies kind of relationships. And so there's one of those as well. And I enjoyed writing that.
Yeah, I mean, it was clear in the
Yeah.
relationships that you had a lot of fun, and also like I love like Mel just fucking mom, I'm gonna get tattooed. He's like 14.
That definitely did not come from my own life experiences.
But just as an aside, it was for me as a reader, it was really awesome to see a mother written who was not necessarily a great mom, but still allowed to be a sympathetic character, because that's usually not allowed in media.
Mhm.
You're a saint
Mhm.
or you're dead or you're both. And so it was nice to see
Wicked.
you
You're
take
wicked.
a different track. Yes, exactly. So do you think you'll be able to write more in this universe, or you cannot say?
I mean, never say never. I don't have anything on the cards right now, but
Fingers crossed.
There's some threads that are left open.
There are threads that are left open.
Yeah, fingers crossed. But something that you do have coming is Fate's Bane, which is a novella that you got coming out in September. But what can you tell us about that? Because that was announced, I think, just like less than a week ago from when we're recording.
Oh yeah, so that was the cover. I've been sitting on. I think things without covers get announced and just nobody knows about them because nobody knows when they're going to come out.
They're announced in publishing
yeah,
in like
exactly.
trade journals.
Exactly. And so now that Fate's Bane is truly out in the world, you can see the girls on their beautiful cover. Mary Metzger is the artist. I am so grateful for her. She did such an amazing job. Basically, I go back and forth whether or not I like this pitch, but it is a very succinct pitch, which is it's a Juliet love story, except the girls are two cursed artificers. They do leather work, and it's all bad luck. And the slightly more in-depth pitch is that the main character is a ward hostage of her father's enemy, and she falls in love with the enemy's daughter. And when the clans go to war again, they're caught in the middle.
Ooh. Okay, you got me.
Very cool. That sounds good.
I love the fact that they're like leather workers. It's like,
yeah.
So somebody made certain points that I didn't actually think about, and I was like, "Oh, damn, missed opportunity." Okay, that's going to be the side book, the extra material.
Yeah. Be like,
save it for the newsletter.
Newsletter short story.
Yep.
Oh, fuck yeah. All right, well, that's out in September. So you got a lot, you got 3 books.
It's a busy year. It's a busy year.
Yeah, hot damn. Hot damn. So Cherae fans, you're in luck. You got a lot to look forward to this year. All right, well, closing out, I want to ask you a 2-part question. If you can give listeners and viewers A, a good bit of soundbite writing advice, and B, a weird or random fact that you find to be utterly fascinating.
Okay, so the going advice that I've been thinking about a lot right now is leave gaps for your readers. Don't over-explain everything. I feel like this is something that's becoming a lot more rampant, and I would like people to pare back a little bit. And, if you have to put it out there while you're writing, like I over-explain when I'm writing, but fix it in the revision passes. Just go back. Anytime you think you're explaining to yourself or explaining to the reader too much, just delete it and see how well it stands on its own, because it probably stands a lot better than you think. So that's my advice. Weird facts. I don't really I feel like every time I'm asked to think of a weird fact or some sort of anecdote, my head goes empty. So I did think about this ahead of time, and it's just something that I like. It's not really I don't know what it says for science, but I just really like that some female lions grow manes. I think it's cool. That's it.
I didn't know that.
I saw that. That's so cool.
Yeah.
But is there
Also,
any explanation for why it happens, or are they just learning?
I mean, there probably is, but I don't know it.
Yeah.
So go find
Also,
out,
like,
people, and then tell us in
yeah,
the
go
comments.
find out and then tell me. But also, like, elephants and crows, not only do they mourn, but they will take vengeance. So all of my facts are animal facts right now. I'm really into
I
animal.
love it.
But like, you do
I
not
mean,
want.
you created your own horse for
Yeah,
Yeah.
Runeterra, so makes sense.
yeah. But you don't want these animals mad at you. Basically, is
Yeah.
all I'm saying.
I feel like that's good story feel. If anyone wants to write like, you know, like a new Redwall, but it's elephants and crows, just fucking go.
A feud.
A feud between the crow and the elephant clan.
Speaking of Juliet and Juliet return.
A leatherworking elephant falls in love with a leatherworking crow. It's great. These artificers.
A curse upon these houses. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, it's called Fate's Mane instead.
Oh, man. They have to unite to fight the lions.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, go get that main lion, that female lion. Get the fuck out of here. Yeah. All right. Well, Deb, like that was good. That was good. I gave you the question ahead of time, but you delivered on these animal facts. I'm gonna tell my son because he's obsessed with animals.
yeah.
And I'll just be like,
Yeah, he's gonna like that.
female lions with manes, crows and elephants.
Mhm.
We got this. All right. Well, Cherae, thank you for chatting with Greta and I today and leaving us on a beautiful note, smiling and laughing. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys. That was a lot of fun.
A pleasure. And if you could please let everyone know where they can find you online.
Oh God, you can find me anywhere, even on the decrepit Twitter as it stands. I am on Twitter at C_L_CLARK. You can also find me somewhat on Blue Sky, which is CLCLARK dot blue sky stuff. But probably most easily, you'll find me on my website, which will have the links to whatever random social media exists right now. Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, a newsletter, all of that. And my website is, oh God, clclarkwrites.com.
Perfect. And go support Cherae by getting Ambessa, which is out. It should be out already when these episodes air. I think it released on February 18th. You can get that if you want some more, a little bit of an insight into the Arcane universe. You can also pick up The Unbroken, The Faithless. Book 3 is out later this year, and then Fate's Bane is out in September as well. So lots to read, lots of ways to support this amazing human being. So go give her a little kickback and pick up one of these books. As well, you can follow SFF Addicts on all the platforms, decrepit or fresh, whatever there is, at SFF Addicts Pod. You can follow me at Adrian M. Gibson, and you can also pick up Mushroom Blues, which is available in paperback, hardcover, ebook, and audiobook, wherever good books are sold. So go check that out if you want some fungal noir in your life. Greta, what about you?
Yeah, I'm mostly on Instagram these days, but also the crumbling remains of Twitter and TikTok at Greta Kelly. You can get all my books, Frozen Crown, Queen of Days, Seventh Queen, wherever books are sold. And yeah, speaking of Queen of Days, go check that out if you're interested in fantasy books about thieves with more swagger than sense.
That's a good one. Nice.
I like that, actually.
Thank you. I was very proud of myself for thinking of that.
Right on. All right. Well, that's it for this episode. Stay tuned next week for part 2 with Cherae for a mini masterclass on how to train your character. For now, keep reading, keep imagining, and we'll see you next time on SFF Addicts.
Oh.